There we are. We're up and running. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Friday. It's a beautiful, beautiful Friday. A little different setup today. Decided I needed to stand a little more. I'm trying to get be a little more physically active in my day, and so now I'm trying to do the standing desk thing. So here we are. Um, so I'm over in my little corner studio, as it were. Um, but I hope that you're feeling well. I hope you're doing good today. I hope you got lots of wonderful things planned. And if you have nothing planned and you're just taking the day and chilling out, that's awesome too. That's not a bad way to conduct yourself. But I do have something I want to share with you today. Um, as you know, I uh, served in the United States Marine Corps, and I went to boot camp in January of '91, and then that was like 13 weeks of boot camp, and then I got 10 days off, and then I came back to Camp Pendleton, and you do what's called Marine combat training, because the idea of the Marine Corps is that every Marine is a rifleman. Every Marine should be able to hop into a fire team and go into the hot action on the battlefield at any given point in time. That's the theory. So you go to Marine combat training for a few weeks, and that's where you get to do all the real fun stuff. You know, you learn how to do fire teams and military maneuvers and all that cool Marine Corps stuff. That's where you really get to jump into it and have a little fun with it. And then you have a few days off, and then you go to your respective MOS school. And it was here that this is where my story picks up. I was in communications, and so you end up going to 29 Palms, California. If you're not familiar with 29 Palms, it is in the middle of the desert. I went there for my school in the middle of the summer, right smack dab right. I was there from June all the way through July till most of August. It was hot. It was very, very hot. It was extraordinarily hot, um, all the time, everywhere. It was just hot, and we had this staff sergeant. His name was Staff Sergeant Coffee, and he was a Marines Marine. And when I say Marines Marine, I mean he was a jerk, but in a good way. He was one of those kind of guys that would torment you and make your life miserable, and you appreciated him for doing it. It's a strange thing if you've never experienced it before, to actually hate somebody so much that you like them. That was Staff Sergeant Coffee. Nothing but respect for this man, but he put us through hell constantly, continuously, all the time. But again, it sort of got you kind of had to marvel at the magnificence of the games that he would play, because he was another level. I mean, you had boot camp drill instructors could only do so much, but once you're in the fleet, there's a whole other level of games that get played. And Staff Sergeant Coffee was a master of the games. Case in point, one time we had you have a field day in the Marine Corps, which is every Thursday, which is the day that you clean everything. You clean. That's our field. That's our day. We clean everything, right? And you have to pass inspection for your field day uh, to be able to get to go on uh, your break for the weekend for Friday. So you have Thursdays, and they'll come and they inspect the barracks. They also inspect wherever you're living. This is everything is clean. The shop that you work in, everything gets cleaned on Thursdays. So we had this one Thursday in particular. Uh, we clean, and we're in the desert. Keep that in mind. We're in the desert. There's dust everywhere, all the time, always dust. And so we clean the squad bay, and he comes in to inspect, and he's looking around. I mean, it looks immaculate. It looks perfect. I mean, if you walked in there as just any normal human being, you would go, "This place is enormously well kept and clean." But no, not for Staff Sergeant Coffee. No, of course, he found everything that could possibly be wrong. I think he would actually walk in with a pocket full of dirt, and he would reach into his pocket to get something and pull dirt out and sand and have it all. That's the kind of games he would play, right? And we're kind of hip to what he was doing, and so the first inspection comes along. We fill it, so he says, "I'll be back in 2 hours to inspect again." So it's okay. Well, what do you do for 2 hours? You clean up the mess that he made, and then we wait for 2 more hours. And then he shows up, go through a little game again. But this time, what he does is he has everybody turn off the lights in the whole squad bay. We turn off all the lights. And then, there's not a lot of windows in this thing. So even in the middle of the day, you turn off the lights. There's not a lot of light going on in this thing. So we turn everything off. And he pulls out a flashlight, puts it on the floor. And he says, "Look at all that dust." So he makes us all get down on the ground and look at the light showing all this dust particles floating around. It goes, "This is horrible. This is terrible. This is the worst, filthiest mess I've had. I can't believe you guys live in this." And then he goes, "I'll be back in 4 hours." It's like, holy crap, 4 hours? What are we going to do for 4 hours? You can't. I mean, you would mop and you would make it dirtier. There was nothing. It was insane. But he was just constantly playing those kinds of games. Honestly, he eventually came back an hour later, and then let us go for the let us off. But it was crazy. Anyway, we had one day. I bring this whole situation up because one day we go in to class. We'd have classes all day. So you go in, you get up, you do morning calisthenics and run and stuff, and then you hit breakfast, and then you go to class. You be in class all the way until lunch, and then you go to lunch, come back, have more classes for the rest of the day, and then you're let off at some point in time, and we just mill about, and there's nowhere to go. There's not a lot. I had a car, so I could go places, but not everybody else had a car, and but we used to do fun stuff. Take off, go do stuff on the weekends and stuff. We had fun. It was good. I mean, you had some liberty, But here's the deal. One morning, we go in. I'll never forget this day. We go in, and we're sitting in class. The Staff Sergeant Coffee comes in. He says, "Okay, take off your blouse." And your blouse, of course, is your camouflage top, right? You call it the blouse in the Marine Corps, but it's basically your shirt, your jacket, and then you have a T-shirt underneath that. So we take the blouse off, and then as we go outside, so we're blouse off. We don't have our covers on, which means that we're going to go do something physical. We had no idea what we were going to go do. But he just said, "Go outside." So we go outside, and we're in formation. So we're standing there in columns and stuff. And he calls us to attention, and he says, "Right face, we'll turn." And he says, "Forward, march, and then run. And we start running. We start running. We didn't know where we were running to, how far we were going to run, but we were running. And he's calling cadence, and we're just running. There was no warm up. There was no stretching. There was just get up and go right now. So there we go. So we just started running and running and running and running and running and running some more and then running, and then it looked like maybe we were going to be done running, and then we just, because we came back by the squad bay, we thought, oh, okay, maybe we're going to stop. No, we kept going. He had us loop around and pass the classroom and pass where we were our barracks 3 times. So it's like, okay, maybe we're going to stop now. Nope, we're not. We're going to keep going. And so we just keep running and running and running and running. And then we're just going. We're going for hours. I mean, at some point in time, you just mentally just check out and you're just moving, right? And again, we had no idea how far we were going. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what the purpose of any of this was. We were just going. We were running. And eventually, we stop. We get back to the classrooms, and he turns, looks at us, and says, "Okay, go back, get your stuff, go back to your squad bay, get cleaned up, be back here after lunch." Okay, and so we basically went for a run all morning long. It was like 4 hours. I think we ended up running somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 miles in boots. We're in military. We're in boots, by the way. We're wearing boots and long pants. The camouflage. We just run. So anyway, we go through this whole thing, and now normally you're supposed to, if you go on a long run, you're supposed to have medical people. We have nothing. We have nothing, right? So we get back. Everybody's, we're wore out. We're drinking lots of water, and we go to lunch, and then we come back to class, and we just pick up class. He didn't say anything about it. It was just class. It was sort of this weird thing. He just decided he wanted to go on a run, so we did. And it was bizarre, and I was just like, this is just like, is he torturing us? Well, a few years later, I have the opportunity to be in the fleet with Sergeant Coffey, Staff Sergeant Coffey. He came into my unit that I was at in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. This is a couple years later after this, and he becomes one of my staff NCOs. So I saw him every day, and it was kind of fun getting to know him there, where it was just, it was more co-worker rather than, he's the man in charge kind of guy. Even he's still in charge, but he's, working with him now. And we were talking one day, and I brought this up, that I remember, this is one of my distinct memories of him, was that day where we just got up and just went for a run for 15 miles. And he goes, "You know why we did that? Do you know why we do that sort of stuff?" And I said, "Well, I have my suspicions." But he says, "Well, one thing you need to understand is in the Marine Corps is that you are going to you could be put into action at any given point in time. At any moment in time, you need to be ready to be able to just be physically, mentally ready to go and deal with crap. That no matter what it is that you thought was important, all of a sudden, none of that's important, and you've got this specific task that you've got to get done, and nothing else matters. You've got to get this done because your life and other people's lives depend on it. So you got to focus on just this one thing right now." And it was a great lesson. And it's something that I've carried with me through my whole life, is that when you have a task at hand that needs to be done, focus on that. Put your energy into that one thing, and do that one thing. Don't let, and nothing else matters. What matters is that whatever it is that you're doing. Now, most of the things that we do aren't a matter of life and death like it is in the Marine Corps, but a lot of the stuff that you do is important. But too often we get scatterbrained because we have so much that we want to do, so much that we want to achieve, so much that we've got to get done, that we become paralyzed because we're worried if we do focus our energy on this, that something else isn't going to get done. Well, yeah, that's true. But as soon as you start getting one thing done and get it out of your way, and you stop thinking about it. I mean, how many times have you had a phone call that you needed to make, or a text that you needed to respond to, an email that you needed to respond to, or just some little menial task that you needed to get done, and for whatever reason you keep putting it off, putting it off. Maybe it's difficult, maybe it's information you're not, you don't want to have to share with somebody, you're going to disappoint someone, so you keep putting it off. Well, as long as you keep putting it off, you keep thinking about it, and it's always in your brain. You got to do this, you got to do that, got to do this. And so it's always there. It's always there until you finally do it. Well, when you finally do it, you realize it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. But the most important thing is that once you get it done, it's over. And you can move on. And you start doing other stuff. So I did a video this last week. Somebody asked me to motivate them to work on their house. Now, the way it was worded, I didn't know if that meant just do housework, clean the house, or if they were actually building a house. I have no idea. The way you could interpret it either way, right? So I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, what could I say to help motivate this person? And so I started thinking about building houses. I've built houses. I've laid down foundations. I've done trusses. I've done framing. I've done roofing. I've drywall, paint, siding, windows, doors, trim, installed cabinets, run wire, run plumbing. I've done all of that stuff. I understand what it takes to build a house. And what it takes is it's a whole lot of little things that you do. You're not going to build a house all in one day. And if you try to, unless you have, I mean, you can, if you have the manpower and the resources, you could pull it off. But if you're just, you typically, a small crew, you have one crew comes in, does the foundation, next crew comes and starts doing the framing. I mean, but what it takes is you have small tasks that you get done, and you get those things done, then you can move on to the next thing and the next thing. So you're not really, instead of thinking of it, oh, I'm going to build this house today, you think of it, I got to put up these 4 walls and have it ready for when the trusses come in to set those. So you have you break it down into small tasks, right? So whatever it is in life that you're trying to deal with, and it's a big monumental task, just remember that you break it down into small things and get it done. So I made that video, and I hope it helped. I haven't heard back from them. I'm not sure if I got the message right or not. But anyway, that's my message today, is that one, always be flexible. But also, when you're on a task, focus on that one thing. Get it done. Get it done. Just get it done. Stop worrying about it. Stop thinking about it, and just do it. Do the little thing. You want to learn how to play the guitar? One note, one chord at a time. That's how you do it. You learn the chord, you play the chord, and then you practice getting into other chords, and then going back to that chord, and you just keep practicing. I'm still not confident with my playing to share it with anybody, but I'm working on it. We're getting there. So So hope everybody's having a good time. And I'm what's it? I'm Cherokee. We don't finish anything. Oh, come on now. Come on now. That's the other thing. You got to tell yourself that you accomplish things. If you're always telling yourself that you don't accomplish things, then your brain says, okay, we don't accomplish things. And then you won't accomplish things. So get on with it, my friend. Yeah. Wake up, make the bed, and brush your teeth. Get on with your life. I don't follow orders anymore. Well, you don't need to follow. Well, you don't need to follow military orders, but you can follow your own orders, for crying out loud. The hardest days in the USMC are the best. They are. They are. You don't remember the days where you just lay around and do nothing. You remember the days that you do stuff. You remember the days that are difficult. You remember the times that your car broke down and you had to walk 5 miles to the next town. You remember the hard times. You remember overcoming the hard times. So you should, when you're in those moments, go, hey, this is what life's all about. Hard, difficult times. These are the stories we're going to tell. You tell the stories of the difficult times. If I got in here and just told you a story, yeah. So I woke up and got some breakfast and I didn't have to do anything. So I just lay around the house and looked at TikTok videos all day and then I had some lunch. I mean, sure, nice, comfortable day, but nobody wants to hear about it. So there you go. All right. So what's some of your questions, comments, and concerns for today as we're hanging out here? Little shorter message than what I've been doing, but I do. I have come to the decision. I am going to officially launch the podcast. I'm going to be doing that on Monday. I'm still going to be doing the lives, but I'll also be doing the podcast. We'll be dropping that. Amy Marie, finishing my degree, getting it done. Awesome. Oh, Tammy, my dog passed away on Sunday. I'll never forget that day. Yeah. Hard times to make you who you are. That's true, Philip. That is true. I had been thinking a lot about my childhood, thinking about my life in general. And the things that I realize is that as you look back, when you're going through it, you don't think of it this way. But as I look back, I realized that all those times that I lost at something or I failed at something, I realized those were really the best things that ever happened to me. Because those were the moments. I'll give you a thing that happened. A couple things in comedy that happened. I had one time I was emceeing a show, and the owner of the club, Keith Stubbs, he's sitting in the back, he's watching. And so I'm emceeing the show, and I go up there, and I decided to try some new material. Something I hadn't really planned the material out. I just kind of had a half-baked idea. And so I thought I'm just going to go up there and throw it out and see what happens. I'm just going to wing it. So I get up there, and I wing it, and it was horrible. It went absolutely nowhere at all. It was horrible. It was a complete disaster. The audience is staring at me like, what is your problem? So then I just bring up the next comic. I'm so embarrassed. It just went nowhere. So anyway, so I run back to the back of the room, and I'll never forget this. Good friend Keith Stubbs looks at me and goes, "Good Lord, Rodney, what was that?" I'm like, I was just trying something new. He goes, "I don't mind if you try something new, but try to put a little more thought into it. I mean, if you were back here watching that, would you be impressed? Would you like what you just sat through? And I'm like, no. And they walked away, and it was that moment I was like, he's right. I wouldn't have enjoyed sitting through that, sitting through somebody who's not putting any effort into it, and paying money to come watch a comedy show, and the comics up there just winging it. No real thought. I mean, bring your A game. That's what I'm thinking. Somebody's putting money out. Bring your A game, and that helped me a lot. That changed the way I approach comedy. And I thought, you know what? When I get on stage, I have the opportunity in front of an audience. I'm going to bring my best. I need to put a little more effort into what I'm to preparing myself and be ready. And there's the moments where you're just going with the flow, and you're playing with the audience, and you have those moments of improv. But that takes a long time and a lot of confidence to do. And I wasn't ready for that at that point in time. So it was a good lesson to learn. Another time, I was in a competition. It's called the Rocky Mountain Laugh Off, and there were comics from all over the country at this thing. It was a really great comedy competition, and the way it worked is we had two different groups, and it was spread out. There were, I think, 5 different locations that you would do shows at. So you had like a Wednesday night at a club where all the comics were together, and then Thursday night, all the comics were together, all 20 comics competing were together. And then Friday and Saturday, you split up between 2 different comedy clubs. So you get to do a little more fun. So you would split up. So one group was in Salt Lake, the other group was in the Ogden Club. And you do 2 shows, an 8 o'clock and a 10 o'clock show. Now, and then the Sunday night, yeah, that's right. The Sunday night was the final night, and that was at a club. It was in Wendover at a casino. So anyway, up through Friday night, I was in to win this thing. I was doing really well. I was placing top 1 or 2 every round. I was doing really great. I was feeling really high on myself. I was like, oh yeah, I got this figured out. Oh yeah, I'm the next biggest thing in comedy. Stand back, here it goes. Right? It's really full of myself. Really feeling good about it. And so we were the Friday night Ogden group. And then Saturday we were at the other club, the West Valley Club, actually. And here's the deal. I had a friend, still a friend. I haven't spoken to him in many years, but his name was Dave, and he was a hunchback. So he had an actual hunchback, right? And very funny dude, very nice guy. And he was in the competition with me, and he was in my round. And I had never followed him up to this point in time. I hadn't followed him in the competition at all. So this night, again, Saturday night, first show, I took first. I'm killing it. I took first on the 8 o'clock show. 10 o'clock show, I'm following Dave. He gets up there, does a set, does a great job, very funny. He's also in the running. He's up top 2 or 3 every show. So he's in the running to win this thing too. So he goes up there, he does his set, great set, very funny. Audience loves the dude. Everything's cool. Everything's great. Well, now it's my turn. It's my turn to get up there and woo the crowd, shall we say. So I go up there. And what I was doing at the time was I would talk to people in the front row, and I would make fun of the fact that people in the front row were the bravest people in the room, because the people in the back were scared that comics were going to tease them. And I would say, I love people. I'm a people person. And then I would do jokes about being a people person and loving people too much, that kind of stuff. Right. And it was a nice little icebreaker for my set. And then I would go into my jokes, other jokes, and boom, boom, boom. Big laughs, big laughs. Thank you very much. You're beautiful. Thank you, all you wonderful human beings. Set's been killing all week long. So I get up there and, I'm bending over and I'm talking to people in the crowd. And I get up there and I start doing my jokes, and I am getting absolutely nothing from this audience. Nothing. Not a single joke is getting any reaction whatsoever. The audience absolutely hated me. They had a passion. If looks could kill, I would have been dead 100 times over. It was horrifyingly bad. And I think, I'm professional. I could deal with this. You just keep going. I just keep throwing the jokes out there, and I keep going. Material's been working all week. Nothing. It's getting worse and worse. And I finally just stopped and I go, am I getting punked? What's going on here? This is just bizarre. Even the comics are in the back going, what just happened? I mean, we had no idea what was going on, right? And I ended up closing my set out early. I was supposed to do 5 minutes. I did 3. I was just, I'm going to take the loss on this one and get off stage. And so I get off stage and I'm just like, everybody's like coming up to me and go, what happened? What's going on? I'm going, I don't know what happened. I have no idea what just happened. And so I get off stage and we're all talking about it, and nobody could figure out what just happened. Nobody could understand. I didn't say anything derogatory about anybody. I didn't mock. I don't know what happened. I don't know why they hated me. And I watched a videotape afterwards. This is like a couple weeks later. Somebody had a recording of the show, and so I sat down and I watched it. And I realized my mistake was when I first got on stage. I was so focused in what I was doing. I wasn't paying attention to what Dave was doing because I was focused on my set and what I was going to do. I'm going to get up there and just do exactly what I've been doing. It's going to kill. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. What I realized is when I went up there, the first thing I did was bend over and talk to people in the front row. That's all I did was I bend over. And I realized at that moment that the audience perceived that what I was doing was mocking Dave. They thought that I was going up there and pretending to be a hunchback and mocking Dave, which was not at all what I was doing. I mean, I'd been doing the same thing following other comics, and no, it was I just bent over to be closer to talk to the people on the front row. That's all I'm doing, right? That's all I'm doing. But the audience perceived it that I was mocking this guy with a hunchback, and it was an eye-opening experience for me because it cost me the tournament. I was basically, I think I ended up 4th overall, 4th or 3rd, but it took me out of being able to win. You know what I mean? But it was a humbling experience, to go be high on the hog. It's like, yeah, I'm killing. I'm going to win, blah, blah, blah. And then to just be shut down. I mean, I had absolutely the worst set in the entire competition all night, all comics combined, all shows. That was the worst set of the entire weekend, the entire thing. And it was because I wasn't paying attention to the whole thing. I was so focused on myself that I wasn't present. And I wasn't aware of what was taking place in that room. And it humbled me quite a bit. And I've always, from that moment on, now when I go into any room before I perform, I always just remind myself of that moment, because the audience's perception is different than what what you think you are and what you think you're doing is different than what the audience is experiencing. And so now I started putting myself in the position of the audience. And this is what changed. This is what really changed for me, was when I really made that change and stopped thinking of myself as a comic who's performing. I started thinking of myself as a member of the audience, and how was I going to approach my performance. And once I made that change, where it was more about the audience than it was about me, and giving the audience a great experience, not about me. This is why I tell people, stop making it about you. Whatever it is that you're doing, your videos that you post, you're putting out there, or songs that you're writing, or anything that's art. Stop even though it could be about you and your experience, ultimately it's about what the audience is going to get from what you're doing. What is it that they're gaining from you? What do you represent to them? It's like, think about the bands that you enjoy. When I was in junior high, that was important. You learned the logo of every band, and you drew it on your notebook, and you wore t-shirts, and you wore little pins with the bands that you supported, to let people know who you were, if you were a rocker, or if you were a punk, or if you were a new wave, or whatever it was that you were into. You would dress the part, because that music said something about who you were. That became part of your identity. That said something about you, what you listen to, and what you like. It says something about who you are. So as a comedian, I realized that you are that same. You represent that to other people. It's like, who are you? What is it about you that other people identify with? What is it about you? And what is the message that you're sharing that says something to them, for them, and about them? And this is true with everything. The clothes you wear, the music you listen to, when you recommend something to somebody else, what you're saying is, this is part of me. When you tell somebody about a restaurant that you enjoy going to, that recommendation says something about you, that says something about your tastes, and you want people to go there and experience it because it's really good. And you know what I mean? Because it says something about you, that you have good taste. And that's when you realize that it's, stop making it about you. Stop making about, I want to be famous, I want to be successful, I want all the attention. Stop doing that. Once you stop focusing on that, and you start focusing on the audience, and giving them something that they need, that they want, that's when it changes for you. And that's part of letting go of your ego, by surrendering your pride and letting yourself just get into the flow. And again, you're making it about other people. When I make a video, I sit down and start thinking about a video, I try to envision somebody who needs to hear this message, who that person is, why they need to hear this message, and what the message is. I always think of it as a friend who's come to me and is asking for advice, or asking for, some motivation. I envision every single video that I'm talking to one person, and I'm talking to somebody who wants help, needs help. What is the message that I can convey? And a lot of times the message can just be, hey, I love, and I know, and I appreciate you. I see you. I care about you. And that's the message that I want to share. And that's the message that you should I'll try to share, you know. So I hope that helps. You know, I hope that you're um, finding ways in your life to share your message with others, with the intent not that you want to get be loved and appreciated, even though being loved and appreciated is a great thing. Um, what's even better is just knowing that somebody else feels loved and appreciated. That that's what I'm after. That's what I want to share with this world. So there we go. That's my message. I wasn't planning on sharing that part of the message, but here we go. Um, so let's take your questions. Let's see what's going on here in the world. Dave Walker. Dave Walker. Not that it's about me, but could you throw me a hey, Dave? Sure. Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave. Hey, Kelly, Shannon, Marta Bell, John Cripps, Don Raymond, Will Meyer. Hello. Is this an apology? No, this is not an apology. I don't apologize. I don't apologize for nothing. Will the real Dave Walker please stand up? Please stand up. Yeah, okay, Dave. Gotcha. Let's see. Let's go to Instagram. What's going on with Instagram? Hello, everybody. I got a lot of people joining. Dave's not here, man. Oh, what was this? We had somebody asking about stand up. What is your best stand up comedian? Who is your best stand up comedian? Well, I hate to put people in. I hate when people say my top 10. I hate that idea of ranking comics because I have comedians who I love and appreciate for who they are and what they do, and trying to compare them. Well, it's like two of my favorite comics, Stephen Wright and Robin Williams. I thoroughly enjoy both of them and their work. Both of them are geniuses in their own right, in the way they do and what they do. And to put there and say, "Oh, this one's funnier than the other one," no, they're to me they're both amazing talent. And I hate to say, "Oh, I like this one better." I don't like one better than the other. I mean, I like them both. Um, but they're my favorites. I would say currently I really enjoy Mark Normand. If you haven't seen him, Sam Morril is doing is really funny. Great dude. I've worked with both of them, by the way. Anthony Jelesnik, currently a really funny dude. Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn's very funny, very and unique individual, an amazing human being. I really like those guys. If you could put your finger on one thing that drew you to philosophy, what would that be? That's a good question. Um, I think it's just the idea of really dissecting life and analyzing it and looking at it and trying to understand it. It's sort of I think I really like the idea of the myth of Sisyphus by Camus. Um, one of the best books of philosophy I think that's out there. If you ever get a chance, read Camus, Albert Camus. Camus is how he spelled his name. But he wrote a book called the Myth of Sisyphus, and of course Sisyphus was um, I don't remember the here on the spot. I don't remember, but anyway, Sisyphus displeases the gods because he tries to help mankind. And so the gods punish him by making him push this boulder up a mountain. And then as soon as he would get to the top, the boulder would roll back down to the bottom of the mountain. He'd have to go back and push the boulder back up for all of eternity. That was his thing. And Camus says that you've got to picture Sisyphus as being happy. Why? Because Sisyphus has a purpose. His purpose in life is to push this boulder up the mountain. He has something his life is dedicated to doing. Right. And Camus talks about us just finding our purpose, whatever that purpose is. As he says, your purpose in life is whatever keeps you from ending your life. Whatever it is that you do that keeps you moving, that's your purpose. Very simple, very simple. And just looking at life and just having a more what'd you say? I'm trying to think of the way to fully express this, but really what it comes down to is that I enjoy philosophy because I just enjoy the idea of trying to understand what all this is about. I love thinking about those questions. I love talking about those questions. I love debating about those questions. It's just, I just really love it. Let's see. When other people are spun out to dangerous levels, like Chris Rock about to get slapped, how do you balance not wanting to immediately do an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth? Okay, that's a good question. That, as you know, Chris Rock just came out with his special, and he specifically addressed the whole Will Smith slapping him thing that happened a year ago. I mean, think about that. That happened a year ago. Is that right? Is that right? Anyway, he hadn't really said much about it. And he waited and did a comedy special about it, which was brilliant, I might add. Because okay, Chris Rock and Will Smith. Will Smith is going to win a physical fight any day of the week. And Chris Rock even admitted to that in his special. He's like, I'm not going to win that fight. But where he can win is public of the opinion of the public in the public square and in a comedy special. If as a comedian, the way you punch at somebody is on stage. It's not physical fight. It's with comedy. And I think Chris Rock did a great job with it. But specifically the question, how do you find that balance? Of really what it comes down to is how do you find that balance between pushing the boundaries and not getting slapped in the face? Well, you have to just sort of surrender that whole idea because there is no balance. I mean, the joke that Chris Rock said about Jada wasn't that offensive. I mean, let's be honest with you. It wasn't that offensive. Chris Rock certainly had a lot more vicious things to say about other people. I mean, basically just making fun of a woman's bald head. She still looks great with a bald head, by the way. I mean, that was kind of part of the whole thing, you know. It was kind of a dumb joke, to be honest with you, because most of the audience didn't even know who G.I. Jane was. It was an old movie reference, so it was the younger people wouldn't necessarily know what he was talking about. But if you're, as a comic, if you're always thinking about, oh, I don't want to get slapped, you're putting yourself in a weird thing, because a lot of comedy is that it changes society, because we mock. Comedy is pushing the boundaries. It's going after the sacred cows. It's making fun of society. It's making fun of people. It's making fun of our traditions, and it's mocking things and making fun of it. It's really deconstructionism at its finest level. And with deconstructionism, you're stripping everything down. You're getting rid of all the dogma or surrounding something, and you're getting down to the brass tacks, as it were, and you're finding the real truth behind something. And that's the idea of comedy, is you're going for that. And if you're worried about hurting people's feelings and pushing the boundaries, then you're doing yourself and society a disservice to some degree. Because really, the role of comedians, or at least it can be, is being one. Well, it's like we talk about the court jester. Um, and I don't know if this was true for every court jester, but there were certain kings who would have a court jester and allow the court jester to mock and ridicule the king. Um, but only him. Like nobody else was allowed to speak to the king this way. But the jester could do it because he did it as a joke, as a jest. And so the jester was really the only person or the only voice that could speak reason to the king. But because he did it as entertainment and as a joke, he could get away with it. He could get away with saying things to the king. He could point things out that were silly going on in the kingdom that others weren't allowed to tell the king. That's the tradition. I that's what I've read in some places. And so the comedian or the jester, that was really kind of our place in the world, is mocking and ridiculing things that needed to be mocked and ridiculed. And that's why when you go to war, if you look at comics from, and I'm talking about, drawn out comics, funny papers kind of stuff. When we went to war back in World War I and World War II, they would use political cartoons to make fun of the enemy. It's a cartoon, the Germans and the Japanese. And it was because it would help the servicemen kind of get in the right mind, because you're instead of thinking of your enemy as this big bad monster, you go making fun of them that they're these lampoonish cartoon characters. You dehumanize them and you would mock and ridicule them. And this is how humor's been used. So it can be hurtful, true, but it can be powerful because it put the servicemen in a frame of mind of what they were going to go attack. Instead of thinking of your enemy as this unsurmountable force, you think of them as weak and silly and stupid. You would go in with more confidence, go fight. And that was part of the strategy. And coincidentally, just sort of you think about that was the strategy of the Americans. The Japanese had a different way, because instead of mocking and ridiculing the Americans, what they did was they said that the Americans were horrible monsters, and they were going to come and kill you and eat your children and do all these terrible things. And they would talk about how in order to join the military, you had to kill one of your own family members, and that every person in the military, the Marines, were these vicious, horrifying killers. And so what ended up happening was the Japanese actually helped the Americans take over Okinawa in particular, because when they got there, when the Marines got to Okinawa, the people were so scared of them that they just started throwing themselves off cliffs. I mean, they were just absolutely mortified that a Marine was, that they were not good people, and that once they were in control, they were going to kill everybody. And so the people just decided they didn't want to go through that terror, so they just jumped off cliffs. If you ever get a chance, read about it. And it was all created because of this idea that they had created about what Marines were, and versus how the Marine Corps treated the enemy, or would set it up. And this is all history. So I'm not I'm not saying you should mock people in that regard. So I'm just saying that humor has been used to do those kinds of things. So it can be a very powerful thing. In fact, political cartoons, um, most people actually, at least in days of yore, would get their understanding of political situations and political news from the funny papers, from the political cartoons. And that's why they're very powerful communication, because they're wrapped in some truth, as it were, which is always the funny. And when you say truth, when people say it's funnier because it's funnier because it's perceived as being true. Just so you understand, um, it's what the audience perceives as being true, not necessarily what's true. I mean, there's a lot of things that people will make fun of that are just complete and total lies that are believed by people, but because they believe them, they think it's true, and so they laugh. So I always cringe when people say, "Oh, it's laughing because it's true." No, you laugh because you perceive it to be true. So a joke told to Democrats making fun of Republican Democrats. Oh, that's so true. Oh, they are so stupid. And then on the other side, Republicans are like, oh, you make fun of the Democrats. Oh, that's so true. They are like that. Blah blah blah. And again, it's the perception of the truth by the audience. So. uh, Bill Engvall, he's very funny. Bill Engvall is probably one of the most underrated comics, I think, right now. But I think he's really very smart, very very funny, good dude. But finding that balance. I mean, when you write a joke, here's one thing. Also, just inside baseball from the comedy world. When you sit down and write a joke, most comedians are not concerned with their politics. I know this surprised you. Um, there are political comedians who obviously have an agenda and they're using it for that purpose. But most comedians, when you sit down to write a joke, you're not thinking what's the social implications of this joke. All you're thinking of is this funny? Will this get a laugh? And often when you write a joke, um, one of the tricks of the trade is that you want the punchline to be something that no one would ever expect. Those are the best jokes when the audience does not know where you're going and you take them someplace they never expected to be. That's the brilliance of writing a joke. And when you're as a comedian, you're not thinking about anything other than that. That's it. That's the only motivation. And there's no bigger agenda beyond the joke other than just being funny, other than coming up with something that will make somebody laugh because it's so ridiculous. And it doesn't have to be the truth. It doesn't have to be. In fact, most of it's. I mean, look at the work of Stephen Wright. No, that's not truth. It's just silly jokes. It's just really well written, funny jokes. There's no agenda behind it other than just make you laugh. And this is where there's sort of this disconnect with, I think, with the audience and comedians, because comedians we're just writing jokes, and so when we hear somebody say it's just a joke, really from a comedian's perspective, that's it. We were just coming up with something that was so ridiculous to say to make people laugh, and that was it. That there would be, all these implications beyond that was never part of the equation ever. When you're writing a joke, I mean, it's just you're not concerned with that. Your only concern is write something that's funny. So, but I do think because of the way society is now, that always enters your brain now is it's like, okay, is this offensive? Because you want to be able to talk about, um, these issues that are going on, because you want to stay topical. You want to talk about what's going on. That's part of your job. That's part of what you do, is you talk about what's going on and you give your insight about it. And we've gotten to the point, though, where just acknowledging the topic will piss people off, like transgenderism. That's a big button right now. And I do jokes about it because my daughter is a bisexual, as she tells me, and she's had two boyfriends that are they were female and they are transitioning to male. She's on her second boyfriend who's transitioning. And I do jokes about when she came out to me, which I'll be honest with you, was not necessary at all. We were well aware of anyway, but I do jokes about it. And the jokes are really, if you see the bit, go find it. It's on my YouTube. But the joke isn't me mocking my daughter or me mocking her boyfriend. The joke is about me dealing with this new thing, because there were certainly transgenders when I was growing up. We were aware, but it wasn't like it is now. I mean, now it's off the charts, right? And it's become part of every day that you're seeing it and experiencing it and meeting people who are in it, and we're having political debates and everything about it. But my joke was just about me dealing with this reality, this new thing, and not no way to mock or ridicule anybody. It was just all in fun. I'm just making fun of the situation. And I had people get mad at me. They couldn't specifically say what the joke was that was offensive, because it wasn't. There's nothing in the joke that's offensive at all. The joke is just about me dealing with the situation. And in fact, when I wrote the joke, I called my daughter and I told her the joke and her boyfriend and said, here's the joke. I laid it out to them and they liked it. They thought it was funny. And the boyfriend appreciated it because in his way, in a way, it was him understanding by me making a joke about it was my way of accepting them and their situation, right? But once I posted the joke, started sharing it, I got hate. And when I would ask, what is it about the joke that is specifically offensive? Nobody could come up with anything. They couldn't explain what it was that was offensive. What they were offended by was the fact that I was making a joke about it at all. And that's kind of where we're at in society, is that you're not allowed to make jokes about anything without specific written permission from every member of that community, apparently. And that's where I see is part of the whole thing. But again, as a comic, you've got to find a way to get your jokes across, to understand that the audience is changing, society is changing, and you've got to just find a way. If anything, it pushes you and it gets you to think differently and be more creative in what you're doing. And at least that's how I take it. So I'm not worried about the whole cancel culture. I'm really not concerned. I said I just want to entertain people and get people to laugh and be entertained. That's all I'm after. That's all. That's it. And most comics are. That's all we're doing. Most of us are just doing this for attention. You know, we have a lot of comedians have emotional issues. A lot of us are middle children, and we're just looking to get confirmation from strangers to validate our existence. That's pretty much all we're after. So, I watched your guru video. My perfect guru is also wearing a Hawaiian Punch t-shirt. Thank you. Yeah, I did that video. Just I'm going to do more of those 2 character videos. This is where the other side of this is green. I just like the blue better, and I need to get better at actually editing the green screen stuff. But anyway, let's see. We got any questions? Anyway. Oh, okay. Somebody, okay. The shirt that you see, this is one of my shirts that is available, and it's your namaste when they can have normaste. That's what that is. Instead of namaste, it's normaste. So I see you. You are loved. Have a super freaking awesome day. What are your favorite places you've lived? That's a good question. I grew up in Utah. For 1 year, we lived in Nevada when I was a kid in a place called Yerington, Nevada. But I spent most of my childhood in Utah. I grew up most of my teenage years was in Provo and Springville, Utah. I went to Timpview High School in Provo for 2 years, and then I went to 2 years in Springville. So I graduated from Springville High School. Side note, I went to school with 2 people who one went on to the NFL. His name was Scott Mitchell. He was He was our quarterback my junior year. We went undefeated, won the state championship, and then he went on and played at the University of Utah, and then went on to play in the NFL. He was a backup to Dan Marino. He's played in Detroit and different places. And then the other guy was Eli Herring, who actually destroyed my football career because he one day at practice I was going up against him and he was practicing pancaking, and I had done this thing where I had gotten past him and then I got pushed in. Another guy was coming. I was darting into the hole and the other guy came and got pushed into me, and so I tripped and fell down by Eli, and then Eli just dropped on top of me. It's called pancaking. So he would just drop, you know. And when he did so, the way my leg was kind of twisted up underneath my body, he ended up bruising my liver and twisting my ankle. And it ended my junior year of football. I was out for the rest of the season. I turned yellow for like a week because my liver was messed up. So that was exciting. Anyway, so I did that. Then I lived. Then I did a mission in New Jersey for 2 years. I was all over New Jersey. Then let's see. Then I was back in Utah, joined the Marine Corps. I was in Okinawa for a year. And then I was in Jacksonville, North Carolina for a couple of years. Then we went back to Utah. And then we ended up moving back to Jacksonville for a few years. And then we lived in Missouri, just outside Kansas City for a couple of years. And then we went back to Utah, which is where I got back in, where I went into comedy full time. Well, I started in Kansas City, but really took off in Utah. Was there for a few years. Started going back, trying to finish my college degree then. And then we lived in Texas, San Angelo, Texas. And then we moved to here, to Connecticut. And since I've been in Connecticut, I've also had a home in Virginia for a year. I lived off and on in Hawaii for a year. I lived part-time kind of back and forth to Utah quite a bit over the last few years. We had another home there for a bit. So I have been all over the United States. And I can honestly say my favorite place to live is wherever Tressa is. That's it. Just wherever Tressa, my wife, is. That's where I like to be. As far as physical locations, I think I really liked I probably a toss up between Texas and North Carolina. I really love North Carolina. So I would say that. Oh, let's see. Yeah, yeah. Dr. Seuss was originally a political cartoonist. Yes, he was. That is true. That is true. Sorry, I'm just trying to read some of the questions going on here. So, missing the Beehive State. I do love Utah. I have kind of a love hate relationship with the state of Utah because I love Utah. I love being in Utah, but it is over the last few years, it has gotten so overrun and so crowded that it's almost unrecognizable to some degree. Um, it's just, again, I love Utah. I love being in Utah. I love going there all the time. I'm there quite a bit. Still have a lot of family, a lot of friends in Utah. I'm still really consider myself a Utahn at heart, but it's just gotten so crowded that traffic is crazy everywhere you go, and it's gotten a little vicious. I've noticed. I mean, it's still friendly. It's still a very friendly place. There's still a lot of friendly people, but there's been kind of this weird, kind of strange, awkward hostility that I feel in Utah from time to time. So it's a weird thing. But again, I guess that's kind of everywhere is like that nowadays. But all of us who live here have that complicated relationship with Utah. Grew up in Heber. Yeah. Yeah. Heber is beautiful. I love Heber. Like I said, Utah is an amazing place. Everything you could imagine is in Utah. When somebody says that Utah is boring, it's because you're a boring person. If you're bored when you're in Utah, you really it's you. Because there is so much to do in Utah. It's really amazing. No, I don't think there's shunning. No, there's shunning going on. No, I don't. I doubt that. I don't see that. I said people are just very nice in Utah. Don't tell them we've got too many people already. Yes, I know that's the problem is that we had a good thing going because people were like, Utah sounds boring. I don't go there. And then they would come there and go, this place is pretty amazing. And then they all moved in and ruined it. So it's kind of a letdown. Great moving into podcast. Yeah, thank you. Now I'm going to do more of a real podcast starting on Monday. I'm still going to do these lives. These are fun. I really enjoy getting to meet people, chat with you guys, and answer questions. This really is a lot of fun. But I will mention this. There are two podcasts that I did with other people. I do a lot of other people's podcasts. And I did two that are out this week. one with my friend Danny Laguerre with Burden Media. He's got a great podcast. I've posted, they're both on my Facebook if you want to go. They're both posted. There's that one. And there's the other one that's the Pinkhurst. What was it? This was a really cool podcast. When I was in California a few months ago. He contacted me about being on his podcast, and I didn't really, I get invited to do these podcasts. You never know what you're going to go up against. Sometimes they invite you, you get there and it's a studio. It's very professional. Everything is just, looks amazing. Other times it's a couple kids in their basement, which is what I just did up in Rhode Island last 2 weeks ago. That was a lot of fun too. Pretty boy, beautiful boy podcast. That was the other one I did not so long ago. That was a fun. It was literally, we're just hanging out in the dude's basement. It was pretty cool. It was fun. I enjoy it every time. But anyway, I did this one in California. He was pretty close to the beach. I mean, it was just really cool. Just a cool vibe, cool place. And this dude was so cool. Oh, it was just so fun. He was a musician, just the most Californian you could ever Californian. I mean, he was just all of that. And it was just delightful. And so we sit there, and he's got it all set up. And it's just a perfect feng shui, perfect ambiance. Lighting was perfect. The sound was perfect. He was a delight to talk to. We had a great conversation. And then he created a song while we were sitting there. And I did some spoken word parts to the thing. And it was just a lot of fun to do that thing. It was just a cool podcast. So if you get a chance, go watch it. So go watch it. And I guess they're all three of those podcasts are out there. So, I should have turned my ringer off. Good morning in life. I've learned not to wear things on my sleeve and learn the ability to agree to disagree and live and let live. Yeah, I think we need to do more of that in society. I'm friends with people from all over the political spectrum, left, right, in between, indifferent. I don't care what your politics are. If you're a good human being, you're a good human being. I think judging people based on their color of their skin, that is stupid, right? Basing your judgment on any person other than just they themselves and who they are is really stupid. You're an idiot if you discredit somebody just because they don't believe what you believe, because they're a different religion or they're a different political persuasion or whatever. That's just dumb. You're an idiot if you just automatically just hate people because they don't believe the way you believe. You're living a sad, horrible, dumb existence if every person that you are friends with has to think the way you think. That is terrible. I feel bad for you. I feel really, really bad for you. Okay, who we're talking about. So I got a lot of conversations going on. But yeah, racism is dumb. And then just, I don't know, the whole political discord that people have. We're fighting amongst ourselves. People who have no power are fighting each other to change things that none of us can change because we're not in control. Meanwhile, the people who are in control, they're doing all kinds of horrible things, and they're using all these other things to get us to fight with each other. So we're not paying attention to what they're doing. And when people wake up to that, then we can change things. But until that point happens, a lot of it's just nonsense. I was coming to San Diego. I was working out a deal to do a club in San Diego. We had a date picked. Something happened. They had to change the date. They double booked it, and I haven't heard back as when the date is. But yeah, we're going to be at some point in time doing San Diego. So I have shows coming up in Iowa, Las Vegas, Idaho. I'll be back in Utah again. I've got some dates at the Hyenas Comedy Clubs in Dallas and Fort Worth. So all this is on my website, rodneynorman.com. So I'm trying to get to San Diego and anywhere else. I would love to come to Michigan. I had a guy that I was working with for doing shows in Michigan and done some there, but he's since gone out of business. So I need to set some new stuff up. So if you want to book me directly, if you have a venue and you want to book me, just contact me through my website, rodneynorman.com. And through that, we can set up a show. That's how that works. You can book me to do a show. I'll just come in and do a show. One show or a weekend of shows. Sorry. I also do weddings. In case you didn't know, I do perform weddings. I'm going to be performing a wedding in Colorado. Colorado. Excuse me. Sorry. But yeah, you can book me or if you just call your local comedy club. Do I drink coffee? No, I do not drink coffee. I never liked it. No, I'm not a wedding singer. I'm a wedding performer. And by that I can wed you. So I can wed you. But yeah, if you want to know more about booking information, it's through my website. If you want to purchase stuff to help support me, I appreciate it. That's how I ticket sales and t-shirts. That's my livelihood right now. I never planned on this. But no, I don't drink coffee. I never really cared for it because my grandparents drink coffee. And this is weird. I like the smell of coffee, but I don't like the taste. I tried it a couple times and disliked it very much. I just never cared for it. Discuss the purpose of weddings. The purpose of, well, I will tell you the purpose behind my wedding. In my marriage is quite possibly the best thing that I ever did in my life was get married to Tressa. We have a wonderful relationship, and she is everything to me. And I tell people, she's not my best friend. She's even more important than that. Would you do what you do regardless of making money or not? Yes, I would, because I have been. for a long time. I've been doing this and not making any money at it for a long time. I just love doing it. Um, as I talked about before, I'm not motivated by money. And my wife, she was laughing at me this morning or last night. She said she heard me say that. And she's like, that is so true. That is so true. Um, that is the truth. I am not motivated by. I mean, look, I like having money. Don't get me wrong. I'd much rather have it than not have it. Um, but I'm too big of a heart. I give too much money away. I've gotten myself into pickles where I've given money away that I really didn't have many times, and so I have to be careful about that. But no, I do this because I love it. I mean, I started doing it. I don't get anything for this. I mean, I don't. I'm not getting paid anything for this. I just love doing this. I've enjoyed this whole week because it's forced me to really think about what I was going to say, to have something planned and thinking about experiences I've had in my life and think about stories and thinking about a message. And I love this. I mean, I love doing stand up. I love doing this. I mean, yeah, I'm not making, I don't know what people think. I mean, I don't have a massive following. I have a good following. Don't get me wrong. I have amazing people who are following me, and you guys are all incredible. And I love and appreciate every one of you. I mean, this is fantastic to be able to literally just turn on a camera in my basement and start talking to people. This is amazing. I'm just totally digging this, but not a lot of money coming in from this right now. So, I haven't. Let's just say I haven't hit the big time yet. I'm still very much small potatoes at this point. My best friend David Paul from the Barbarian Brothers passed away, and he would have loved you. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry to hear your loss, but I'm honored that you think of me in that way. I don't want you money. I just need friend. Yeah. I said I'm not opposed to being rich, but it's not my motivation. I just see this world as being just so negative, so full of anger and rage and hostility, and I don't want to participate in it. I don't. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a voice that lets people know that we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. That you are better and more capable than you even begin to imagine. So that's what I'm doing. What is the affirmation book other than Daily Stoic? The affirmation book. Oh, you were talking about yesterday. We were talking about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching. It is. I say it was the tradition is that Lao Tzu was, of course, this. He had been a public servant almost his entire life, civil servant, and he decided to retire, and so he was leaving the city to go out into the country and basically live out his life in peace. And as he's leaving the city, a guard at the gate said, "Hey, hold up there, smart fella. Before you go, why don't you write down all your wisdom so that we can pass it on to generations? I don't want your wisdom that you've gained through your life to go to waste." And so, as the tradition goes, Lao Tzu sat down and he wrote a book. And it was basically little affirmations, if you will, on how to conduct your life, how to live your life, and how to be happy. And that became the Tao Te Ching. And it's where he talked about the Tao, which is often people interpret it as energy or something to that degree. Um, but it was a book I was introduced to it when I was, I think I was 14 when I first came across it. And I remember reading it and not understanding it at all. I was like, what is this weirdness? Um, but what I found was when I would just keep reading it over, because I'm just going to read this and read this over and over again until I understand it. And then I found books that would talk about the passages and what they meant. And that gave me a lot of wonderful insight. And so then I began sort of a lifelong commitment to it. And I saw it as I didn't see it as a religion. I saw it as a philosophy of life. And that wasn't inconsistent with what I had already believed. And then, so I would read the Tao Te Ching every day. I'd read at least one segment. At least I did through a long time. I've gotten away from it. I need to go back to it. So I do. Do I get any copycats? That's a good question. I wouldn't say that I have copycats, but I will say that I've seen people who I think have been inspired by what I'm doing. And they're kind of doing their own twist on it, basically um comedic motivation, I guess. Not that I invented. I mean, there's other people who were doing that kind of thing before, but doing the character and doing philosophy and sharing positive messages. And I've had people will send me stuff that they see that they think people are trying to basically imitate me, and I'm flattered. Again, I'm happy to be a part of inspiring people. If people are inspired to do more positive things and encourage other people to have a more positive experience, I'm fine with that. I don't really have a problem with it. There was there were a couple, but it's not worth mentioning. I don't want to get into a thing. The name of my character, my predominant character, is Leonard McCrunsky. Leonard McCrunsky. The name Leonard came from the name of the road in my town that you take to get to the dump. That's where I came up with Leonard from. That's the name of the road you take to go to the dump here in Stafford Springs, or the transfer station, as they call it. So let's see. What was that other question somebody asked? How do you keep motivated when so many negative things happen? Oh, that's a good question. Again, it's not. What it comes down to is how you think about what it is that happens to you. Instead of thinking of it as good or bad, I don't assign good or bad to it. I don't think of everything as being negative, because a lot of great things have come out of negative things. Um, some of your best inspiration will come from when you're low. A prime example of this occurrence is music. Often it's sort of this weird thing, but often a person's first album that they release, or at least one of the first few albums, the one that makes them big, that one will go huge, and it's hard for people, that's why you get these one hit wonders. It's hard for them to match that energy and rekindle that. And I mean, some have, obviously, but a lot of times, when you're younger and you're new at it and you don't know what you're doing, that's when you're innovative. That's when you're really out there because you're hungry for it. You're not, it wasn't given to you. You have to fight for it. You have to do something creative and amazing and unique to get noticed. And so you really put yourself into it and you get yourself out there and you write music and you perform like nobody else has ever seen before, and you create something amazing and new. All right. Um, and often it comes, from an artist who's, living out of their van, or, they're performing in their garage. I mean, they don't have any money and they're just doing it because they love it. That's usually where you find the greatest art, is the people who have experienced difficulties and suffering. When somebody becomes wealthy and they start making a lot of money, you see that their choices for music kind of uninspired a lot of times, and it's okay. It's not bad music. It's just it's all right. And I think part of that is that to be a true artist, you kind of have to have that drive, that that it's so when you see negative things or you have bad experiences, it's from those negative and those bad experiences that you find the greatest strength. That's how you become stronger, is getting through those things. So not when you stop looking at things as being good or bad, that are just things, then you don't have those high and low emotions because you're not emotionally attached to what's going on. Does that make sense? Um, see, somebody asked a question. How do I stay grounded? That was a good question. Part of being grounded, what keeps me grounded is I do read the Bible. I read scriptures every day. I read philosophy every day. I read Tao Te Ching. I'm just constantly challenging my own beliefs and looking, um, just always reading and trying to fill my head with new thoughts and new things to think about, and giving myself new challenges. I'm frustrated. I'm 60 and want to travel, and I'm not really rich. It's frustrating. Everyone's traveling. Well, there are unique ways. There's um, there are places where you can get jobs doing adventure stuff, and they'll pay you to come and hang out. And there's a lot of these are seasonal jobs, river rafting or things like that. They'll pay you to come and have an adventure for a few months, and then you go find something else to do. If you have a will, there's a way. Again, a lot of it, you stop thinking traditionally. Stop thinking of, I have to have a whole bunch of money and pay other people for me to travel. No, there's opportunities out there where they'll pay you. They'll pay you to do the traveling for them. You've just got to go search for those things. You got to look for them. So, yeah, I do. I do the grounding. That's the other kind of grounding. You take your shoes off and go walk on the ground. That's fun. If you haven't got into that, you need to. I do. Okay, I do breath work. I do meditation. I do grounding. I do cold water therapy. I do um, very conscientious of my nutrition. I'm doing all that because I'm trying to be healthier. Um, I work out at least 3 times a week. I try to get as much sun as I can. Good for vitamin D, good for your mental health. A good thing if you're just feeling down, just go out and just go outside for a few minutes. Just go walk around outside. I don't really have anxiety issues. I used to when I was a kid. I used to get really anxious when I was a child. I also had bouts of OCD when I was a kid. And what I found, because most of the anxieties, when you have that anxiety, you have that, it's more of a fear of either being mocked or ridiculed or getting hurt, or you have those kind of things. And when I realized that all of these anxieties that I was having were just ideas in my head, then I just stopped. I started changing the ideas in my head. Instead of making it a fear, I made it a challenge. So I used to have a fear of dogs, and because I got attacked by a dog when I was a kid, but instead of allowing that fear to take over and having that anxiety, I just started petting every dog I could find, and overcame the fear. And same thing with snakes. I used to be afraid of snakes when I was a kid. I mean, I wanted nothing to do with them. But as I've gotten older, I used to just sit and look at pictures of snakes and watch National Geographic stuff about snakes and get the magazines and read about snakes. And pretty soon I realized that there wasn't anything to be afraid of. So be respectful, but no, it's just, you find the things that you're afraid of, that you're anxious about, you just confront them. My OCD, I realized I was having all these patterns that I felt like I had to keep following. And instead of, what I was able to do was shift those patterns from silly things like having to turn the light off a certain way. I remember specifically, I could only turn a light off using my middle finger. Like I had to feel it right there to turn on. It was a strange thing. But anyway, I turned the OCD tendencies into more positive things, and so it broke me from those weird physical patterns, and I started using it the other ways. So yeah, that's how I deal with it. Oh, thank you. You're amazing. So you're amazing too. Uh, they make grounding mats that you can plug into a wall socket. Only plugs into grounding over the socket. Yeah, they make all kinds of weird stuff that you can use to get grounded. Well, my house, it's got an unfinished basement, so it's a concrete basement, and I believe that you can still be grounded through concrete because it's all still natural stuff. Um, I think a lot of it's just being barefoot is the biggest thing, but yeah. While I was working on my wife's car, I was lucky because it was mostly a drive-by. Still hurt. Yeah, was got. Yeah, like I said, it's being respectful of snakes, but not being fearful. There's a difference. Um, I still don't. I mean, I don't play with snakes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to ever go be a snake handler. One of those churches or anything. But if you have a fear, you address your fear. Like right now, I have a fear. Not so much a fear, but one of my biggest challenges is singing in public. I love to sing, but I'm not very good at it. But I want to be good at it. So I've been practicing. I've been practicing singing, and I have been and I'm learning the guitar. A little bit of time, taking my time, but I'm starting to kind of figure it out. Um, do I ever go hiking? Yeah, I hike a lot. Not so much during the winter. Yeah, I do a lot of hiking, especially during spring and summer. The Marine Corps kind of ruined hiking for me for the longest time because, uh, when you go on a 30-mile hump, it sort of ruins hiking for you for a while. But now I've been in my older age now. I've been getting back into it. I really enjoy hiking. I enjoy it immensely. Um, so yeah, I love hiking. Classically trained opera singer here. I still feel like I'm going to throw up before I sing. Well, I'm glad to hear that to some degree, but yeah, it's I don't know, just singing. Not I'll tell you this story. I was in uh, when I was in college at Snow College, my first year right out of high school. I got cast in Annie Get Your Gun, and of course it's a musical. When I auditioned for the part, I told him, he asked if I could sing. I said, I do not sing. And he goes, well, we'll work with you on it. But, I didn't have a solo or anything. But he's like, we'll work with you. It'll be fine. And so I got the part, and I was like, I can't remember. I only had a couple lines. It wasn't much, but I was on. I was in the cast, and I was a freshman in college. I was like, oh, all right, here we go. Well, anyway, about the second week of practice, rehearsals, we were working on a song that would involve the entire cast, and we're going through and we're singing, and I'm giving it my best. I'm laying it out there, and we go through we start singing, and he stops. Everybody goes, stop. He says, I don't know what's going on here. There's something in there that's not working. Let's go back. Let's start over. Um, and he goes through and he says, I'll do it this way. You do it this way. Okay. So, all right. So then we go back. We start singing through it again. And we would never get through the whole song. He would stop us like halfway through and say, no, that's just not right. It's just not right. And everybody's getting kind of a little frustrated because we've gone through it like 8 times and it's not working. He's not happy with it. And I'm just, I'm a little tired. I'm like, man, can we just move on? And so I got so tired that I just stopped singing. I just started mouthing the words. And so as we're going in, we're singing, and I'm just mouthing the words. And then he starts getting excited, and he's like, oh, yes, perfect. And then we get through the whole song. He goes, yes. He says, I don't know who it was. I don't know what you did, but whatever you did, that was perfect. Whatever you did on that version, that is what you need to do every single time. That was it. That's how it needs to be done. And that was when I realized that I could not sing, because what he was complaining about was my voice. It was me singing. I was the one messing it up. And when I stopped singing, he was happy. And so that was it was a little bit of a kind of a gut check for my because I started thinking, oh yeah, I can do this singing thing. All right, yeah, absolutely. I'm musical theater. Let's make it happen, baby. And then I got shut down hard. Just the fact that he was so excited, and the most excited I'd ever seen him was Yeah, was when I stopped singing. So that's what I've had to deal with. Yeah, yeah. He replaced me shortly after that. Actually, I think he figured it out pretty quick. I never did. I never got to the final thing. He let me go. Let me go. I think it was like a small part. It was like I think I show up in two scenes. I say one or two words, but because I was in the singing cast, I had to be at every rehearsal, and it was like I did a lot of just sitting around. And as a freshman in college, I didn't really enjoy that very much. But he replaced me with some other guy who wasn't even in college. It was somebody else who worked in town who was a theater major before, and so he brought him in to fill in for me. And that guy didn't have to go to a rehearsal ever. He showed up for the dress rehearsal and then did his part because it was a little small part. So kind of a gut check. It was one of those moments, when you get fired. Just I don't know. It was tough. Do I still act? Yes, I do. I do. I do. I want to do more auditions. I want to do more. Yes. Do you ever listen to I started listening to one of the videos, but I haven't really given it any energy yet. So, anyway, you guys have been amazing. But I think it's time to move on to my day. I've got other things. I'm going to go hit the gym today, do some guitar, work on some other videos. I got some birthday people to wish happy birthday to today and stuff. So, again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining me. You've been amazing. You're always incredible. I love you. I'll be back on Monday. And you guys have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you. We'll see you another time.